Hi, I'm Chris McCoy.
Oh, and I'm Toby Sells.
Yeah, welcome to Memphis Flyer Podcast. Every week we get together in front of Smushy here and talk about what's in the paper this week and what's going on in Memphis. So, Toby, you are our master news reporter. What's going on?
Chris, let me just stop you right there, sir. I'm the news editor of this MFer, okay? When I say MFer, I mean Memphis Flyer, just so we're not... You know what I'm saying?
We're all MFers here.
Well, we really are. That's what we call each other at work. It's great. But always a lot of news going on. And so summertime is what they call silly season, right? That's what they call it over in the UK. Over in the States, we usually call it just the summer doldrums. That means there's nothing going on. Everybody's on vacation. Folks are away. Not a whole lot of big decisions get made. In Memphis, the fiscal year ends for the city council on like the 27th of June. And so after that is an awful, harrowing experience, and everybody takes off, right? And so there's not any big, huge news coming down the road. Even though that's not been true, they've been really busy up at City Hall doing things. We have there's just a ton of stuff happening really actually in Memphis, but of course we are the Memphis Flyer, so we kind of look at the things that don't get covered as much. And one of the things that we love to do is we keep an eye on the MemberNet. That's Memphis on the internet. I know the name, but you know what? I mean, it's just... I said, hey, what's the name of this thing? Sherry Clark, our editor, said, hey, what about the MemberNet? I thought, it's not going to get any worse or better than that. So it's been the MemberNet for years now. So
it's good. It's a brand now.
It is a brand, like it or not. But the MemberNet was pretty funny this week. There was somebody got a photo of a MATA bus with drive-out tags. And I was like, it gets no more Memphis than that. I mean, that's 100% Memphis ability right there, Mm-hmm. And also, Memphis-born rapper, he's probably not around anymore, but NLE Choppa, he really stirred him up over there on X. On a Thursday, he posted, I'm coming out, ... and had pictures of himself, in this fashionable thing. He's a great dresser, just by the way.
He is a snappy dresser.
And then so that tore everybody up. There were responses going back and forth about, his sexuality and all this kind of stuff. He didn't say a word. And then on Friday, he comes back out, ... with a new album, with a new single, and and it was a big joke on everybody else. And so NLE Choppa, you got him, buddy. Good job. It was amazing. But over in other more serious news, Chris, we had... a reality TV star that was arrested in Crockett County. She made bond. She is one of the 1,000-pound sisters from TLC. I don't know if you guys remember that show or not.
I don't.
Amy Slayton is her name. And I can't tell you the difference. I looked them all up and kind of got into it a little bit. But so Amy Slayton was out with a friend. I don't know if it's a boyfriend, whatever, male friend, and had kids in the car. She's going through the Tennessee Safari Park in is it like Alamo or something? It's close to Jackson out there. Yeah. And so, this is one of those drive-through zoos. You roll your windows down and then you can feed like camels and zebras and stuff that are coming up to the car. Mm-hmm. Apparently, I don't know. There's a lot of blanks to fill in here. So she's feeding the animals and gets bitten by a camel. Bad enough where somebody calls an ambulance to the scene. They come up to the safari park. So when the ambulance comes out, here comes the Crockett County Sheriff's Department. They come out and they smell weed. And they look in the car, and they said they saw weed and mushrooms in the car, so it ended up as a drug bust for Amy Slayton, 1,000-pound sister, and her boyfriend. No, I don't agree with it, but it's pretty funny, right?
It is pretty funny. Everybody out there, keep your game tight, okay? Keep your game tight if you're going to be riding dirty.
Gosh.
Like, make sure your tags are up. Make sure your stuff is not in sight, especially if you're going to get bit by a camel.
It's really big, and you got to be smart. It's like, hey, is this really an ambulance situation that we're dealing with here?
I've never been bitten by a camel before. It could be like that.
It might be bad.
It might be bad.
It might be real bad.
They're big.
Yeah. Gosh, that's second only to terror. I'm terrified of being spit in the face by a llama. Anyway, that was a funny situation. We're keeping an eye on seeing what's going to happen there. She made bond. Probably it's going to come to nothing, but it was just kind of a funny story that we've been watching. An actual big, cool news story. This came from the Mississippi Basin Ag and Water Desk, which does amazing work there at the University of Columbia and in Missouri. And they share this news all up and down the river. It's really, really great. They reported via Tennessee Lookout this week that the state is working on this huge land deal in West Tennessee from the old Ames Plantation. You've written a lot about the water situation. You're familiar with what I'm talking about here.
Yeah, I did a cover story back in the spring.
Yep.
About the watershed and the wetlands, which are really important to filtering the water that gets down into the aquifer and recharging the aquifer. That's how. And that area that you're talking about, the Ames Plantation, that was originally saved by the Wolf River Conservancy as the Ghost River,
yes,
part of the Wolf River. But now they've solidified those protections, haven't they?
Yes. And it's incredible. I kind of liken it to the way they're going to save this part of the recharge zone out there the same way that they saved the old forest by putting state protections on it. That's kind of what they're doing here. It's thousands of acres that they're going to buy up out there. Not only is it going to cover part of the recharge zone for the aquifer, there are just amazing animal species out there. There's archaeological finds out there. It's going to be a big deal. For the state, for students of the environment also, but also for Memphis drinking water. I think it's going to be a big deal to help protect those parts of the aquifer because, you look at it right now with Blue Oval City and all the development that's happening out there. I mean, that's happening right on top of a lot of parts of the recharge zone. So the more we can protect, the better I think it's going to be for us. So big deal. The deal's not done yet. But everybody cross your fingers that it's going to get done.
Well, and I was very proud of when I did that story about the actual seriousness with which people were taking this issue.
Yeah.
And at the state level, when I think a lot of times you see state lawmakers don't take anything seriously except their own reelection. But they were really taking this seriously and debated the issue, and I think this is a good step forward. It's me saying something nice about the Tennessee legislature. It's crazy.
Wow, that's as rare as a camel bite from a television reality star.
That's right.
So we're keeping an eye on that story, which is really, really great. We also had a story, Kaylin Johnson, continuing her great coverage of the Memphis Area Transit Authority. It's a mess, y'all. They've got a $60 million deficit they're trying to deal with. They've got this interim CEO now doing the very best that she can out there. The city council doesn't think so. They just had a session with them on Tuesday of this week, and boy, just really grilled them about what they're doing. I mean, it was layoffs, huge layoffs, and then we stopped the trolley service, cut a bunch of routes, all these things, really draconian measures here that they went through to kind of save their budget. But City Council has a lot of questions about how they're spending the money, how they're making these cuts. So we're not at the end of the thing yet here, but boy, if you're a matter rider out there, it's kind of bad time. So good luck and keep the faith out there. Hopefully something will get done.
Yeah, I encourage everybody to go to MemphisFlyer.com or pick up a physical copy and read Kaylin's stories. She's been doing a really good job on this one.
She's really turned into kind of a MATA expert for us, and her coverage has gotten better and better all the time. And I think if you're a MATA writer, that's kind of required reading for you. Also required reading, to shift back to Chris McCoy just a little bit, go pick up this month's Memphis Magazine. Copy out on the stands right now. Chris had the cover story over there too. He used to write everything about everything, but it was all about the bluffs. We know Bluff City, we know about the fourth bluff, some of those things. I didn't really understand what it meant until I read Chris's story and why we're on the fourth bluff and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, it's great. It's a great read. If you're a fan of Memphis or Memphis history at all, it's a must read too.
Yeah, it was. It started out as a travel story that I was going to do for the magazine, and it was that I just wanted to visit some Mississippian sites. The mound builders, some of the mound builder sites. And there's tons of mounds everywhere, around here. And in the course of the research, it just kind of grew and grew. And I hooked up with this guy, David Dye, who is an archaeological professor at University of Memphis, who just co-wrote a book about the interplay between archaeology and geology, specifically the earthquakes that we have here periodically. And he was an invaluable resource. And the story turned into basically a 14,000 year narrative of human habitation in the Mississippi Valley and our bluffs as well.
Wow.
Here and Chucalissa, which I had never been to because I didn't grow up here. Everybody goes to Chucalissa for a field trip here, in Memphis, and I didn't grow up here, so I got to go down there for the first time, and it is amazing. That's the cover of Memphis Magazine this month. I also wrote the cover story for the. Yeah, I've been slaving away in the word mines, Toby.
Well,
slaving
now,
away in the word
before we leave
mines.
that, though, I got to ask. 14,000 years ago, there were people here in Memphis. They have big ass beers back then, or
They did not have big ass beers. See,
the pioneer times.
No, the beers. Egypt was the beer culture.
Nice.
You know, people
Anyway.
are like, how did the pyramids get made? One, they didn't have television to waste their time, or the internet, and two, they had really good beer. That's basically how the pyramids got made.
Excellent. All right, cover story this week. What's it all about?
Well, so you may have seen, if you watch the Olympics, you may have seen commercials for a show called Fight Night, the $1 Million Heist.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and it just premiered last week on Peacock, the NBC Universal streaming service. But it has a very strong Memphis connection because our own Craig Brewer was one of the executive producers. Wow. He did not originate the show, but he was the first hire on the show, and he got several people who he had worked with before. Samuel L. Jackson, for one thing, and of course Taraji P. Henson and Terrence Howard from Hustle and Flow.
Yeah.
And Craig has worked with all three of those people before. And they got Don Cheadle, who is just amazing.
What?
I said this is not in the story, but Don Cheadle made me cry harder than anybody has ever made me cry in a movie theater with Hotel Rwanda. Don, thank you. And finally, the guy who originated the whole project, Kevin Hart, one of the funniest men in America, in an actual dramatic role. And the story and it is an 8-part miniseries, which we see a lot more of that format now in the streaming era. And the story goes back to 1970 when Muhammad Ali had been had refused the draft to go to Vietnam, and then he couldn't fight for 4 years. He was in court, for 4 years. They nobody would license him. Finally he convinces the Georgia State Board to license him, and his first comeback was in 1970 in Atlanta. And this is all true, by the way. So there was this group of gangsters. So everybody's coming to Atlanta for the big fight. And there was this group of Atlanta gangsters who wanted to make their mark and also, I think, network with national gangsters, which is a thing.
Everybody's got to have a conference.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they wanted. Yeah. Like, we're having a con, right? And they were going to have a big house party, a big after party, watch party and everything. And so they invited all these, like, big-time, hustlers and everything. And then a second group of gangsters found the invitations and said, this is basically there's a line in the series, they hold up the invitations like, this is a big rob me sign is what this is. So they busted into the party with guns and and put everybody in the basement, and they made people dance at gunpoint in front of the windows so it looked like there were still like people partying.
They home aloned them.
They home aloned them, and as they walked in, people would walk into the party. They would stick a shotgun in their face and take all their money, and then make them strip down and put them in the basement.
That's wild.
And so then they started going through the IDs, and they realized, oh no, like who are these people? Like the guy Terrence Howard plays was the basically the black mafia boss of New Jersey.
Wow.
Samuel Jackson's character, Frank Moten, was the, head of the black mafia in New York City.
Wow.
So they started looking and they were like, oh man, I think we kind of screwed ourselves.
We're in over our head a little bit.
We are in over our head.
That's
and so
amazing.
the whole story just, it becomes like a Coen Brothers movie of like misunderstandings, people like fleeing, people getting killed under stupid circumstances. And it's a really great story. It turned out really awesome, the series, and one of the reasons it turned out really awesome, Brewer directed the first and second episodes and the 7th and 8th episodes, and then helped with the writing on the rest of it. And then he got Scott Bomar, who is he's the band leader of the Bo Keys in Memphis, and he is also the studio head over at Sam Phillips Recording.
Yep.
So they recorded the score for the entire show here. There's some needle drops of like, soul songs and stuff from the era.
Yeah.
But that era of soul and R&B is absolute, peak
Solid
American
gold.
music.
Yeah.
It's amazing stuff. And that's the era that, Scott really specializes in these days. So it was a perfect match. They did the whole thing. They had 1 week per episode to compose all the music and record it all and send it out. I think they did the whole. Scott, when I went and interviewed Scott at Sam Phillips, they had just sent off episode 8 1 day ahead of schedule, and he said, the people didn't think they were going to be able to do it. The NBC people were like, "There's no way you're ever going to get this done." And then when it was over, he said that they told him, "Scott, you did the impossible." And but anyways, the show has been, the first week they released 3 episodes last week, and people are watching it. It's a huge show, and it's just going to get bigger because it is amazing. They have 5 bona fide movie stars, absolutely at the top of their game. Kevin Hart, who is a super funny guy, right? There's some comedy in this, obviously, just from the pure ridiculousness of the situation, But Kevin Hart, is a great dramatic actor, and I think that's part of the reason he wanted to do this. He wanted to prove he had those chops. You see that a lot in comedy. So it's so much harder to do comedy than it is to do drama.
Sure.
So if you're good at comedy, a lot of people who are really good at comedy can adopt and do drama really well. I think the timing is a big part of it.
Right.
But highly recommend the show. Pick up the Memphis Flyer. Go to MemphisFlyer.com. And
all right, what's the name of the show?
Fight Night.
Fight Night.
$1 Million Heist.
Where can you find it?
It's on Peacock.
On Peacock right now.
Streaming on Peacock. I think they'll give you an introductory deal if you're not already there.
Absolutely, but then set a timer and make sure you remember yourself to cancel that because it's happened to me.
Yeah.
Right before we go, we do want to let you guys know that we are kind of weekend experts over at the Memphis Flyer.
It's what we do.
You can pick up the copy. We've been doing a calendar of stuff to do in Memphis before it was cool, before some of those others came along and did it okay. So pick it up. We've got a stepping out section in there of all the stuff that we recommend that you do. And like I said, we're experts, so you can trust us over there. The big one this weekend is Cooper Young Festival. It's been going on for years now, decades. About 100,000 people are going to stream into the neighborhood for art, for music, for corn dogs, for big beers, all those things that make it great, and just hanging out with everybody's buddy. It's a lot of fun.
And at the same time, Southern Heritage Classic is going to be over the Liberty Bowl.
Yes. So it's going to be a big, huge, busy weekend for this part of Midtown over here. I say this part. We're in Cooper Young right now. So make sure you pick up the flyer on the stands or go to MemphisFlyer.com and check that out. You can get a lot of details. Figure out how to do Cooper Young right.
Yeah. This has been the Memphis Flyer Podcast. We will see you next week.
See you.